The EU referendum debate heated up this year's GTR's UK Trade and Export Finance Conference. Two representatives from each side presented their arguments to a jury. On the Leave side, it's about sovereignty.
We need to be able to control ourselves, how we govern ourselves, so that's the most important one. It wasn't part of my speech. What we've got to do is to try and get rid of harmful regulation. We've got to try and make sure that companies pay their tax that's made on the profits in this country, so that the rest of us pay less tax, and so that businesses get going.
I think we should leave the European Union because it's a failed organisation. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for us. It never will work for us. It's very expensive. It's very tortuous. We can trade with Europe without being a member of the European Union. The aim of the European Union is to become a super state, and I think that would be unadvisable.
On the Remain side, it's about growth and prosperity.
The economics of EU membership can be summed up in the fact that it's beneficial for high productivity firms that trade. You have to remember that even amongst new exporters, 83% of exporters trade with the EU, and all the options for EU exit, any deal that we could put in place, even a good one, is going to raise costs for those firms, meaning that growth will suffer and UK will be less prosperous than it would be inside the EU.
As a businessman, as a family man, and as a person that's concerned about this country that really loves Britain, I believe that we need to stay in the EU in order to maintain our sovereignty, to maintain our position in the world, to maintain our vibrant and dynamic economy, and to ensure that we have our seat at the highest level of the political agenda.
The Remain side won a unanimous vote. But who presented the more legally sound arguments?
I listened very carefully to both sides, to the Leave arguments and the Remain arguments, and I can say very, very clearly, as a specialist in European law, that the Remain side offered a much more accurate, a much more compelling, a much more evidence-based description of the way that the EU operates, of the nature of EU institutions and policies, of the relationship between the EU and the United Kingdom. By contrast, I found that the Leave arguments were very often based on inaccurate legal statements, on a lot of rhetorical claims which simply weren't backed up by any credible evidence at all.